Hey, this is Malika of Evanston Live TV, and we are here for the D65 District 65 School Board Candidate Election. Yes, and we have been hearing so much about District 65. There's so much going on with the race issues, with COVID-19. Do we send the kids back to school? Do we keep them at home? The budget, how they're spending the money. I mean, it is so much to talk about, and I am excited to hear the vision, the platform from all of these candidates. I've already spoken to a few of them individually, and I've learned a great deal. I've learned a great deal from the ones that I've spoken to, and I've read up on the others. So I'm like some of you out there watching, I'll be learning something new about these candidates tonight. So please, everyone, feel free to engage, write out questions, put it in the chat, raise your hand when we open up the floor. I want the residents to get to know these candidates. It is very, very important that you engage and get to know them. And unfortunately, because of COVID-19, we do not have the luxury of going out to a forum in one big room together, Family Focus or the Rotary, and actually meeting everyone face to face. So now we have to do it via Zoom and social media. And so please engage in all of these forums, please, please, please. And I'll be sure to have each candidate give us their contact information so that you can reach out to them and get more of your questions answered. Okay, but welcome to Evanston Live TV. I want to give a big thank you to our sponsors tonight. We have Erica Walker. She's also president of the We Will Women organization, but she is CEO of the Walker Thomas Group. Erica, if you want to take 60 seconds to introduce yourself to everyone.
So not my life story this evening.
No.
Okay, thank you so much for having me. It really is a pleasure to be a sponsor. As Malika mentioned, I'm CEO of the Walker Thomas Group, and our focus is creating a better place for everyone to live and work. And we do that through diversity consulting, leadership development, and coaching. Most of our work is in diversity and inclusion. And so we work with school districts across the country, corporations globally, as well as municipalities. And as we are in this time period in our society, our work is really ramped up. So thank you so much for having me. And that's it.
Thank you so much, Erica. Thank you for sponsoring us this evening. Mm-hmm. And next we have the founder of STEM School Evanston, Henry Wilkins.
Hi, good evening. My name is Henry Wilkins. I am a parent of District 65. I have two kids, both at Walker, one in the 5th grade and one in the 1st grade. I began a pursuit to open a STEM community school about 3 years ago after learning about area of Evanston, the Central Core, which used to have a school and no longer has a school. And we felt like opening a STEM focused community school would be in the best interest of the kids so that they have a school option that's within walking distance closer to where they live. On the side, I'm a member of Kappa Alpha Psi. When the pandemic's over, I'll be coaching NYSO soccer. I'm also a member of the reparations subcommittee for education, and also serve as an advisory member for the reparations group as well.
Okay, thank you so much, Henry. Terry Shepard, many people in the community know Terry Shepard. She's one of the founders of the ACC program at Oakton. Terry Shepard, if you want to take 60 seconds. She's also part of STEM. Terry, we can't hear you. We can't hear you.
There you go. Okay, I'm ready. I thought you had to unmute me. I'm sorry. Okay. Terry Shepard, and normally I'm always the senior in any group, and it kind of looks like I am here as well. I served on the District 65 Board of Education for 4 years. I was on the board that brought Dr. Murphy to Evanston. I'm a grandparent of 2 children in the district, Terrence in the ACC program at Oakton, and JJ is a 5th grader at King Arts, where his mother, Tasha, my daughter, is a teacher. I also serve on the reparations subcommittee of education. And I am particularly drawn to the STEM school program for a number of reasons. But the first one is just to give you a little bit of background. I entered kindergarten in 1954 at Monroe Elementary School in Topeka, Kansas. You know, that's the school of the Brown versus Board. I was able to walk to school. As a result, I was able to, and all my neighborhood friends, we all attended the same school. When we needed to share a project, we just went next door or across the street. I have always been interested in returning a school to the Central Core or the Fifth Ward, however you call it. But I was particularly drawn to the STEM school project because not only are we looking at locations in the Central Core, we're we hope to bring a form of education that is not located in any of the other schools in Evanston. Thank you.
Thank you, Terry. Thank you so much. Mark Roushan, he's also part of STEM. Mark, we can't hear you.
Sorry about that. Sorry about that. A little technical. Hi, everyone. My name is Mark Roushan. I am working on the STEM School Initiative with Henry. A little bit about me. I've been around Evanston the last 25 years. I went to Northwestern. I work in Evanston. I live in Evanston. I live in the Fifth Ward. My kids go to King Arts. I have a fourth grade and a fifth grader. And I'm just really interested and excited to see what the D65 candidates have to say about how we can better shape the district for the future.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Mark. And our last sponsor, also part of STEM, is Katia Block. Katia Block.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello. My name is Katia Block. I am with STEM School Evanston. I grew up in Evanston and I went to District 65 schools. I currently have two children, a first grader and a fifth grader who are both at King Arts. And I'm very interested to hear what the candidates have to say. So I'm looking very much forward to it.
All right. Thank you so much to our sponsors tonight. Now we're going to get to our candidates. So candidates, you get 60 seconds to introduce yourself. Say whatever you want to say in that 60 seconds. Knock it on out. Okay. And then after that, we're going to jump right into the questions. So we'll start with Biz Lindsay Ryan.
Hi, everybody. I'm Biz Lindsay Ryan. I have been on the school board since August of 2019. I am passionate about education. I'm an equity, diversity, and inclusion consultant professionally, and our district was a client of mine for 5 years before I transitioned to being on the board. I worked at Northwestern for 8 years. I taught at DePaul for 15 years. So education is very much my focus, and making sure that we have equitable outcomes in our district and that we really make it a reality for all of our students to succeed and to thrive in our community. Okay. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much, Biz. And the next candidate, who also has a really cool name, Sula Kim.
Thank you, Malika. Hi, everyone. My name is Sula Kim. I'm an educator, a mother, a wife, and an immigrant. My husband and I have lived in Evanston for almost 14 years. We have two boys who attend District 65 schools. And we both work at Northwestern. I've been the Assistant Dean of Graduate Programs in the School of Professional Studies for about 5 years. But before that, I was at Columbia College Chicago, downtown in the South Loop. So my career has really been in higher education for over 25 years. And I deeply believe in the transformative power of education. And I want our public schools to be as good as they can be. I am the proud product of public schools in Queens and Long Island, New York, proud New Yorker here. And I think, a community like Evanston with its progressive values and its the great strength that comes from diversity should be able to have great public schools and live up to our values of equity. So that's why I'm here to serve. I've been on the board for less than a year. I started right around the start of the pandemic. So it's been an interesting experience doing board work on Zoom. But the work is important and I look forward to continuing it with my board colleagues. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Sula Kim. And next we have Joseph Halpern.
Thank you, Malika and Evanston Live TV for hosting this event and for the Walker Thomas Group and STEM School Evanston for co-sponsoring. My name is Joey Halpern, Joseph Joey Halpern. I am a doting husband and a father to 4 beautiful humans that you can't hear right now, which is amazing. 3 of them are in District 65 schools. 2 are at Walker, 1 is at Chute. I am also a proud product of Evanston schools. I went to kindergarten at Timber Ridge School, which is now Bessie Rhodes, before it was the Magnet School. I also went to Walker Chute and ETHS, where I met my wife in AP biology class. So that was that's a short little Evanstonian history. I've been here for about 35 years now. I've been here for a lot of Evanston's history that seems to repeat itself. Why the STEM School Evanston topic is recurring and coming up again. This is not the first time in my life. In fact, it's probably the 10th time. It comes around every couple of years as a serious topic of conversation, and I'm dedicated to finding solutions to these big problems. I am also dedicated to the work that we've been on.
We can't hear you, Joseph. You went out. We can't hear you. Okay, we'll let Joseph figure out his audio. We'll move on to Indona Muboyai, if I'm saying it right, Indona.
Yes, you are. Tonight you got it right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So yes, my name is Indona Muboyai, and I am a 5th generation Evanstonian. So my family actually has been in Evanston since the late 1800s. I'm a proud member of the Perrin family, and I am a wife, a mother of 2, and in my professional life, I am a financial and business consultant, where I focus mainly on investments in Central Africa, focusing on Angola, the Democratic Republic of Congo, and the Republic of Congo, helping business owners there bring their products to market in the US and in Canada. I have a background in finance. I worked as a licensed stockbroker for 15 years. I also worked in sales for nearly 20 years, both investments as well as retail products. And I also have a STEM nonprofit organization, which I started about 2 years ago. And my focus is assisting children here in the US to be able to connect with children abroad by teaching them foreign language and also teaching them about STEM, well, mainly STEAM, science, technology, engineering, arts, and mathematics, to children in the US, Canada, and in 2 countries in Africa, Nigeria and the Congo. And I have a passion for the arts. I also write poetry and short stories, and I do fine painting. So when I first started school, prior to studying finance, I studied fine arts because I wanted to become a painter. And the reason why I wanted to run for the board is because I have a passion for education. And I believe that all children can succeed as long as they have the proper support and training.
Okay, thank you so much, Indona. Marquise Weatherspoon.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Evanston Live TV and all of our sponsors. So I am a 3rd generation Evanstonian. I am a proud mother of 4 sons. I have 2 at, where do they go? Oh, they go to Nichols. and 1 at Chute, and then I also have another at ETHS. I'm the current president of Advocates for Action, which is a leadership council with Cradle to Career. I am currently the PTA treasurer for Shoot as well. And I have a degree in business accounting that I obtained after having twins, which was a little strange. But, and I am just an all-around Evanston girl. I am also a minister at Christ Temple Missionary Baptist Church. And tonight I am so excited to be on with everyone and to hear the ideas and the views of my competitors, or, you know, and everyone else that are on. And I'm also, my desire to run for a school board District 65 is in my desire to serve our community. I have a desire to serve the unheard voices, and also to help continue to provide an equitable experience for all of our students.
Great, thank you so much, Marquise. Katie Magrino Voorhees.
Yes, thank you so much for having me on. Marquise, that's amazing. The mother of four, I'm so impressed. I have 3 children, young children. I have an 8-year-old who goes to Orrington. I have a 6-year-old and a 3-year-old. And I am a mental health clinician. I am a therapist in private practice. And I've lived in Evanston for 24 years, actually. I started off at Northwestern as a music major. I was a cellist, and I went back to grad school for psychology. And so now I work with families and children and adults, and it's very important to me that families can thrive and that children's voices are heard. I also understand trauma-informed care. That's very important, and I can see how that would transfer over to my work on the board. I think, you know, in our pursuits for equity, we need to really be paying attention to the culture that we are creating for all children and making it as comfortable, safe, and nurturing as possible. And so I think that I can use my clinical skills in prioritizing something that's so important. You know, our schools are the single largest provider of mental health services, and we're sort of the front line of helping kids in need. And so again, I think my clinical skills could be helpful. And my other reason for wanting to run for the board is that I'm very interested in opening the schools, and I'm thrilled that the hybrid model has been announced for next month. It's so wonderful and so exciting. And I know that's going to help all of our kids catch up and for everyone to achieve academic excellence.
Okay, thank you so much, Katie. And Angela Blazing.
Hi, thanks for having me and everyone else and hosting this. My name is Angela Blazing. I am a mom of 2 middle schoolers, and I've lived in Evanston only 9 years, which is compared to 5th generation and 3rd generation, it's not very long. I'm originally from Battle Creek, Michigan, Cyril City, and I've been in Chicago pretty much most of my career and moved here right after college. My background is in finance. I have an undergraduate business degree from University of Michigan and an MBA. And I work for Hyatt Hotels Corporation. I've spent most of my career working for real estate developers and institutional owners in handling specifically their financing work, financing projects and companies. And I do the same at Hyatt. I do a couple other different things, including cash forecasting and managing all of our bank relationships. And you know, that's kind of my experience. The reason I'm running is really related to my interest in finance and really kind of trying to make the most of the budget we have. And I know it's going to be very tough over the next few years to make that budget work. And I think that I've got some great background in solving really complex situations. I'm working through now my second recession in 12 years, working for a real estate owner that's been pretty severely impacted and had to come up with a lot of creative solutions. And then I'll also say I very much commend the board and the district for the equity measures. And it seems like, you know, through my study and review and discussions, it seems like, you know, we're kind of in maybe the third inning. I don't know if that's the right inning, but we really need to kind of now move the needle. And I think it's going to be substantially harder, obviously, given COVID. And so I want to use my budget skills to really see impact, especially in the next few years.
Okay. Thank you so much, Angela. Okay, so we're going to throw out the first question here to everyone. Now, I know some of you have heard that I've been asking the other candidates to ask each other a question, and we seem to learn a lot about the candidates when we ask them to do that. But to save time, I am going to ask that you each ask a question. You pick one candidate, one of your opponents, just one, and they have 60 seconds to respond.
Hey, real quick, Malika,
Yeah.
Donna Wang didn't get to introduce.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did I miss Donna Wang Sue? I'm sorry, Donna.
It's okay.
I'm sorry.
No worries. You know what? In this pandemic, I'm going to ask you for grace and I'm going to give you grace. So there.
Thank you.
So good evening. Thank you, Malika, Evanston Live TV, Ms. Thompson, sorry. And for the STEM school, it is so great to see fellow parents from years ago and the continued relationship. And Terry, Tasha and her family are part of my regular Monopoly rotation because JJ and Jason love Monopoly. Tasha doesn't, but that's where she hangs out with my husband and other parents. Sorry for the side comments there. I am a parent of a 3rd grader at Walker, a 6th grader at Chute, and I'm born in Evanston to immigrant parents, so maybe 1st generation Evanstonian. I did leave Evanston to the west suburbs, and then we, let's see here, moved to California, middle of freshman year of high school. I still don't recommend it ever. And I eventually moved back to Chicago after graduating from UC Santa Barbara and ended up choosing Evanston as where I wanted to settle down and have our family. I often joke that I'm a Jill of my trades, and today with the inauguration with Dr. Jill Biden and Madam Vice President Kamala Harris, it means so much more when I say that. I'm also one of the founding class of Alpha Kappa Delta Phi sorority at UC Santa Barbara and served in various capacities on both the national and international level. Professionally, I work at Northwestern University. I'm part of a variety of different things. I guess my actual job that I get paid for, I'm the Associate Director of the Farley Center for Entrepreneurship and Innovation. And then I also taught a class there last year. But on the side, I was part of the Changemakers. I was cohort number 5 with actually Sula. And I was an LGBTQI ally training and also part of the academic advising committee for our Black students. I've also am a faculty advisor to a mental health student group for artists and a student entrepreneurship group. And I'm also part of a women mentoring group, and that's just at Northwestern. And then in our Evanston community, I've been part of the Bessie Rhodes and Walker PTA. I've coached AYSO soccer. I served on the MWEBE committee for City of Evanston, and now I'm part of the Housing and Community Development Committee. I've served for PTA Council for the last 3 years, Treasurer, VP, and I'm currently your president. And I am involved with the PTA Equity Group. I just joined last year and been mostly involved with enrichments and the school supplies piece, but just amazed at how far the journey has been. And really, one of my reasons why I am running for District 65 School Board is one of my quotes is, and my kids will confirm this, well done is better than well said. So don't say sorry unless you really mean it and your actions will show. And I really hope to bring my background, my support. I recently saw my center through leadership change. And I think this is such a pivotal time with Dr. Horton to support the entire process. So I bring various perspectives, a parent, a volunteer, teacher, student, and administration, and hope to round out the team of our school board. So thank you.
Thank you, Donna. Thank you. Thank you. And please charge it to my head, not my heart, that I forgot you. It has been an exciting day with our new president, our new administration. So I'm like on a high right now, a high of hope. a high of hope. I shouldn't say words like high for District 65, but I'm on a high of hope right now and excited. So we're going to jump in. So you all already know, I'm going to ask you to ask a question of one opponent, and they get 60 seconds to respond to that question. Okay. Let's start with Donna. We'll start with you. Pick one
Okay.
opponent.
I guess Marquise, you are a Fifth Ward resident, if I believe correctly, right? What role do you think the board should play in advocating for an emphasis on reparations in the Fifth Ward?
Thanks, Donna. So what do I think that the role that I think the board should play in the reparations?
Well, just advocating for an emphasis on reparations in the Fifth Ward.
Well, I think they can identify some of the households to help their reparations. You know, there's criteria that they must meet, and based on the demographics in our schools, I think they can help in identifying some of the households that may qualify for the reparations. I think that that number one, thank you to our outgoing Fifth Ward alderman for giving a voice to that. But the district can play a major role in that by just being an advocate, knowing the students, knowing their households, and being able to provide that specific information.
Okay, thank you so much, Marquise. That was a great question, Donna. Angela Blazing, pick an opponent and ask a question.
Sure. I wasn't preparing for this. So how about Sula? So my question is, I think it was recently announced that ESSER, or the second phase of the CARES Act, would be giving about $80 billion to Illinois schools. And I saw an article today that said in the Chicago Tribune that $3 million would be allocated to District 65 in the second round. 800,000 was allocated in the first round. So my question is, like, as a current board member, where do you see that money sort of going to use, you know, especially over the next 6 months, given everything going on with COVID?
Sure, thanks for the question. I think we have to look at the plan for fall opening. I think it's great that we are at a place that we can safely open for some of our students in a month. But I think as we prepare to look for a full opening in the fall, we have to see what the needs are of our students starting this summer, starting now, really. You know, with our identified priority group students, what are their social emotional needs? What are their academic needs? And how do we use the summer months to support them and catch them up? But then also thinking about what further mitigation measures will we need in the fall to bring everyone back for both teachers and students? Will we need regular testing? Will that be part of it? Will there need to be additional materials, support curriculum materials? I think we have to look at what those needs are, and we have to use you know, deliberate planning to allocate those funds. As you know, the budget is $130 million operating budget. So $3 million, you know, can help certainly, but it's not going to be a significant amount. So I think we have to be smart about where the equity needs are and which students need to be supported the most.
Okay, thank you very much, Sula Kim. I say her whole name because I love that name. Katie, pick an opponent, ask a question, and the person gets 60 seconds to respond.
Thank you. This is a question for Biz. First of all, I just wanted to say my heart goes out to you as you are the recipient of a heinous act of hate, and no one should ever have to endure that. So I just
Thank
felt
you.
when I heard about that. And my question for you is, I know that you are so involved with equity and it is such a priority. And I'm wondering, in your mind, how would you bridge the gap between Black and Brown students with white students? How do you envision sort of creating a better environment and more love?
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's a mistake to think of the solutions for addressing the gap and opportunity to achieve as any one magic bullet. There are a multitude of interventions, and many of which we've already been investing in. For me, I also have my graduate degrees in counseling, and so you know, a significant part for me is about school climate and making sure kids feel like they belong and families feel like it's their school. You know, there's a lot of research about academic performance being tied to some of the social emotional pieces. And so, you know, I think it's incredibly important that we continue to have our school climate teams that are looking at kind of all the ways people feel welcome, respected, included, or not. You know, so I think that partners with culturally responsive pedagogy and, you know, incredibly rigorous curriculum and instruction. You know, I think what is been evident to me before the pandemic and my work with all of our schools, but even more critical now is that the relationships between our educators and our students are so critical. So, you know, continuing to provide professional development for our educators so that they are able to, you know, foster the best relationships possible with students. I think, you know, those are all parts of the puzzle. I think, you know, it's important that we continue to prioritize a multitude of interventions. And I think we are just starting to see some of the results from the last couple of years of investment. And obviously we'll have to address some of the challenges that the pandemic presented in those growth rates and our comparisons, but there's a lot of work ahead, but I think we have the right tools in place.
Okay. Thank you, Biz. Thank you. Marquise?
My question is for Katie. Katie, in which way would you, in thinking of equity, what is one thing, if you could change one thing in our school right now, what would you change in regards to how equity is being displayed in our school at this time?
I think first and foremost, the academic achievement gap is not acceptable, and we need to figure out ways to get all of our kids performing at grade level. They need the supports in place. And so, and I commend the district. They have done a lot of work in sort of, you know, providing consultants and just kind of looking into ways that they can be more helpful. And I want to know, how can we translate what we have learned into actual performance in the classroom? So I would want maybe some more metrics to see exactly how the recommendations are being used, and is it working, is it not? And let's tweak it, because we need our kids all to be performing at a high level, at their very, very best. And so I guess, you know, I would look at the metrics being used in order to get the consultation to translate into the classroom.
Okay, thank you very much. Indona?
So I'd like to pose my question to Joey Halpern.
Oh,
Hello,
shit.
Joey.
Go ahead, Indona.
Okay. So, Joey, I'd like to know, in regards to the recent conversations regarding the schools reopening and the hybrid return to school that's supposed to be taking place in February, how do you think the district has prepared itself for the return to school? Have they put in place, you know, do they have proper PEP? Do they have they made any renovations to any of the buildings that are having issues with their HVAC? What exactly has the district done in order to prepare for the return of the students, even when it's just a hybrid return?
It's a great question. Thank you. Thank you, Nadona. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Great. So the district, while we've been out in preparation for the return to school has spent about $508,000 in PPE to have on hand. That includes supporting mitigation efforts that we know are going to need to take place. Masks, in some cases, face shields and gowns, things that teachers might need to feel comfortable in the workplace, but also things that students might need. So everybody's going to send their child to school with a mask, but children sneeze, children cough, children drop them and step on them, and there's going to need to be replacements. So lots of product has been purchased to make sure that the schools are stocked and supplied appropriately. In terms of the facilities, all of the HVAC, the univents that are in a lot of the classrooms have been upgraded to include MERV 9 filters or HEPA filters, one or two, depending on which one, because they haven't really been readily available because everybody's been upgrading the systems. Those are the best filters you can have. They're the filters that are used in hospitals to make the air quality and the air filtration as safe and strong as possible for the people in the environment. We have taken the bubblers, my kids joke when I call it a bubbler, the water fountains that all the little mouths go around that were in a lot of the classrooms. They've been decommissioned and taken down so that they're not even an option anymore. And in some places they've been replaced by water bottle fillers like you'll find in the gymnasiums where a lot of people will work out so that there can be touch-free access to water. In addition, we have increased the workload of the custodial staff during the school day so that additional cleaning can take place. So the enhanced cleaning measures are going to be around high touch areas, the handles, the doors, the railings, the things that the kids touch as they move through the building. So people will see more staff in and around the schools, making sure that those things are getting wiped down on an ongoing basis as opposed to a once in a while or every couple hours basis. Those are just a few of the things that are put in place to make sure that we're ready for not only the big people, but the little people as well, to make it as safe as possible. And it all comes down to 3 main mitigation measures: wash your hands, socially distance, and wear a mask. And we're gonna ask everybody that comes into the building to make sure that they do that on the regular.
Thank you very much, Joseph. Joseph, you pick an opponent.
I'm going to ask a follow-up to Angela's introduction, if I can. I like that you said you described the equity work as maybe being in the 3rd inning. I think it's a fair analogy. And I guess from a board lens, you know, we sit looking at the body of work, and we're playing the long game. So being in the 3rd inning, there's a lot of game left to play. And my question for you is, what do you think happens in innings 4, 5, and 6 for the district regarding equity?
Yeah, so I think one big thing is that I think first and foremost, you probably have to assess where kids are at coming back from COVID, because where they were at a year ago is not where they're at today. And my guess is a principal, you're already seeing that and experiencing that. So that would be the first thing. And then I think really, I mean, obviously we have this budget issue, and I think we probably need to align the goals. I mean, as I look at all the goals, there's a lot of goals. And sometimes one thing I've learned in sort of corporate America is it's better to have 1 or 2 really big goals and go after those than maybe 7 or 8. So I would say probably align the goals and prioritize. And I think everybody on this call would probably be all for, you know, basically getting to the real metrics and seeing what other school districts are doing that actually works and is going to drive results and committing to timeframes, so that if you don't see, you know, a change in 1 or 2 years with a student body that you're focused on, then, you know, pivoting really quick to say, okay, this isn't working, where else are we going to put our resources? So, you know, I can really appreciate the framework, particularly the culture piece, because I see that in my job. I work for a company that's been very progressive on diversity and inclusion efforts. And, you know, I think when things became, you know, really came to the forefront in terms of racial justice issues this summer, I felt like a lot of the things I was hearing my friends' companies do, we had already put in place. So I can really appreciate that the framework is important in sort of achieving the rest of the goals.
Thank you.
Thank you, Angela. Sula Kim.
Thanks. I guess this question would be for Katie. You talked a little bit about the opportunity gap. I was wondering how you would define equity and what you think the role of white parents are in Evanston,
You lifting a lot
either
more now.
supporting equity or impeding equity progress in District 65.
So how I would define equity, I think, is, giving everyone the opportunity to achieve and giving people what they need to do their very best and to have every opportunity available to them. I think that requires a lot of support. Some people need more support than others. Some people need, they're coming from a situation at home, maybe that's not ideal for learning, and the school needs to step in and provide a supportive relationship, a healing environment where a kid can perform at their optimal level. When a kid is traumatized, or, if there's some kind of problem, the brain is flooded with emotion and you're not able to focus on the cognitive tasks at hand. So it's extremely important to pay attention to that welcoming, safe environment. And the role of white families, I think, is to connect with Black and Brown families and, be supportive. And I think you might have seen, that the One Fund passed and with overwhelming support. And I think that a lot of parents in this district, in fact, I would say most parents, really want everyone to achieve and to succeed.
Okay. Thank you, Katie.
If I could follow up on just how white parents may impede that progress. Have you seen that, or what role does opportunity hoarding play?
Yeah, I think, everyone has implicit bias that they need to check themselves, and they need to really get to know people on a personal level and not stereotype and not make assumptions. We need actual relationships. And I think it is our job as white parents to reach out and really become neighbors and become friends and to be supportive. And your question was about impeding, how white families might be impeding. I think of course, I don't think white families even realize how much they have that they are not sharing. So the resource hoarding, I think we need to be made aware and have these difficult conversations.
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, you're probably going to get some more questions on that one. Great question, Sula Kim. And Biz.
I have a question that I would just ask anybody, but I don't want you to feel left out, Endona. So I'm going to punt it to you because we've all taken a question already. As we've talked about, we have a pretty significant financial crisis that we've been talking about since 2012, the various iterations of the board, but are going to need to make some serious decisions in the near future. How do you anticipate balancing kind of all the various stakeholder needs and thinking through how we continue to recruit and retain high quality teachers and also have the ability to pay for all the facilities changes that we need to and have everybody have the quality education that we want, but also recognizing that we have the structural deficit that is looming. What are your thoughts on how you would navigate those financial decisions and our various stakeholder needs?
Excuse me. Thank you so much, Biz, for asking me that question. I've taken a look at the most recent budget for fiscal year 2020 and 2021, as well as the previous one that led up to the referendum. And what I could say is that looking through the numbers and looking at the new hires and looking at the expenses, what I would do is that, yes, I would continue to spend on what's necessary as far as investing in equity and inclusion and diversity, which you guys have been doing, which is amazing. But at the same time, I believe that some of the consulting fees could be reduced and in some places eliminated, because I believe that with all that's being spent on the new hires, you guys have done an amazing job with recruiting Dr. Horton. You've also done an amazing job with assisting the district in recruiting more Black leaders in the schools, from a number of new Black principals, as well as assistant principals throughout the district. But what I think needs to be done is that we need to look at all of the expenses, look to see what's working and what is not working, look to see where we've consistently spent in one area that is not working, and possibly reallocate those funds elsewhere. I am aware that there was a tranche of about 800,000 that was received in the first CARES Act, and you guys are going to soon receive a bit over $3 million in the second tranche. My question has been, based on the previous spending, where there has been spending in the same areas, but the same areas have not produced results. My question would be to the board: how can we take a look at where we've been spending, where it's not working, move those funds elsewhere, rather than having to spend additional money that the district does not have? I am aware that there are talks about possibly laying people off as a result of the deficit. There have also been talks about possibly having to raise taxes in order to cover not just the deficit, but also possibly getting new hires that both the district and parents in the community have requested. So, just to, put an end to all this, the best thing would be to look at where the spending has been, where the money has been going, reevaluate whether or not, where you've already been spending and it's not been working. You should say to yourself, you know what, this hasn't been working. Let's stop spending there and reallocate the funds elsewhere. So basically evaluate what's been done, what's not working, and work on, stopping the hemorrhaging instead of just spending on more. Because rather than having to spend extra, I believe that some money can be moved around to different areas.
Thank you so much, Indona, and I'm sure.
Malika, can I clarify one thing and respond?
Sure.
Would that be okay? I think it's important to for people to know that we don't just, as a school district, raise taxes. We levy taxpayers, and we're limited to a CPI to the degree to which we can levy taxes each year. And sometimes as a school district and as a school board, one of the things that we're tasked with is how do you provide evidence that things are working? And investing in restorative practices and investing in anti-racist focused work and beyond diversity and seed training for staff, the results of all that work can actually be seen in some small pieces of data, but they're actually huge for individual students. Like 2 years ago, we had almost 300 students suspended from school for behavior. And this year we're down to less than 100, right? Students who were excluded from school because the admin welcomed them and hugged them and cared for them. And that's not a monetary gain, that benefit that we get out of some of that work. And sometimes those things do get mixed and are hard to explain, but it's certainly a fair question, Nadona, to ask, and it's something that that we should all be able to speak to a little bit.
May I respond? Is it okay?
Let's keep it brief.
Okay.
Seconds, yes.
All right, so I just wanted to say, in regards to the CPI, basically for, many of the people that are watching that might not understand what CPI is, it's basically Consumer Price Index. And what that is basically a basket of goods that are purchased. And that's how the government is able, well, the Bureau of Statistics is able to calculate what the CPI is going to be annually. And the reason why I mentioned the tax increase is because it was spoken about by the board. And because it was spoken about by the board, I felt that it was necessary to bring it up. And also we must keep in mind that 75% of what's invested into the district comes from taxpayers. So it's definitely a conversation that has to be had. And many people are very much concerned. I definitely know that, equity and anti-racism work is extremely important. We definitely don't want to take away from that. but we also do want to reevaluate, what's working and what is not working to make sure that we're not just spending just to spend.
Okay, we're going to move on to the next question, but I'll allow one incumbent to respond, and then we're going to move on.
I'm hoping there's a go ahead, Sula. I'm hoping there's a finance question. If there's not, then I feel like we need to get some information in here. But if there's a finance question later, we can address it later.
I don't know what the questions are going to be because I'm going to be calling on people. So
All right, Liz, you go.
Okay. So the short version is that our the main driver of our budget challenges is a structural deficit. So we have more expenses than we are getting in revenues, right? But the biggest chunk of that budget is salaries and benefits for teachers. I think it's like, Joey, correct me, I think it's like 85% of our budget. So while there absolutely can be cuts, and we'll have to look at every facet of what we do and be smarter and more efficient with dollars, there are some pieces that we could cut everything in that other area and not necessarily solve this problem. And there's state law that does not allow us to, its taxes can be either 5% or CPI, whichever is lower, and CPI has been significantly lower. And so we have a structural barrier there that we can't raise taxes. We can't have more revenue coming in. So we have to work with the numbers that we have. And that's why we have some pretty difficult decisions ahead of us in terms of how we, navigate some of those budget cuts, because it's not just like, well, we misspent money over here, or there's one position or two positions. It is a significant part of our budget that is our very talented educators, and we'll have to look at that.
okay, thank you so much, Biz. Okay, we're going to move on. Our sponsor, Erica from the Walker Thomas Group, you have a question?
I do. I'm assuming we all saw the inauguration today and we were inspired by that, right? But my question is, as you reflect on the theme that President Biden, and it's funny to say that, President Biden finally, and Vice President and Mysore Kamala Harris represent, they've been talking a lot about unity. Okay. And so as you think about some of the things that I know you're going to get into much more detail about, but how there are different perspectives around COVID, how you deal with race issues, budget issues. When you think about all of those things that are going on within the school district, what are your thoughts about creating unity? And so I know you're doing diversity and inclusion, but all of us are a microcosm of what we're seeing in the big stage. So they need to focus on unity. Okay, who are they? They're us. So what are your perspectives about really creating unity within the district? And Malika, we may not have time for everyone, so I can just pick 3 people.
Yes.
Yep. Okay. So Donna Wang, and then maybe Sula Kim. See, now I want to pronounce her entire name as well. And Donna, maybe the 3 of you could kick us off, and that's it.
Sure. So just for clarification, Donna Wang is actually my maiden name. Wang is my middle name because I had so many people say Donna Sue, and they'd be like, wait, what's your last name?
Okay.
So apologies there. Now,
Feel for you with all my first names, Donna. Go ahead.
I know. My partner has a name with a hyphen too, so he tells me about all the troubles with that. I do think that we need culturally responsive education, and we need to meet the needs of all of our families. I also believe that we need to also look through things with a racial equity lens and what kind of impact we're going to do with the individual pathways. And I think just when I'm thinking about metrics and how people are doing for equity, you can think about attendance. During this pandemic, are students showing up? Are they tardy? How are their grades doing? And how do we further desegregate that and almost take advantage of that and move forward and try to fix that problem there? I think we need to have that racial lens in focus. And I'm so sorry. What was the second part of your question?
Well, the full question really is, what will you do to engage greater unity in the district, given that we know there are going to be different perspectives there, just like they are across our country. What
Mhm,
are you guys going to do or what are you going to do to contribute to creating greater unity?
mhm. So currently serving on PTA Council, one thing I've really enjoyed is being able to bring community from one PTA to another and really helping each other out. I think that we're able to collaborate and, you know, if one PTA or school is struggling, another one being able to help out. I also think that the PTA Equity Project that current board member Suni and Biz led has really done tremendous grounds, especially with the One Fund program. I think that is a step in the right direction.
Okay. Thank you,
Thank you.
Donna Wang Sue.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. And Erica, I think you wanted to address it also to Indona and
Sula Kim.
Sula Kim.
So should I go next? Am I up? Okay. Thank you for that question. What I heard in President Biden's message about unity that I thought was really important is that you can't have unity unless you have truth. You can't have healing until you acknowledge the truth of our history and our current circumstances. So I think we have to develop a common language for talking about equity and talking about inequity. We need to develop a common language and have deep conversations about how white supremacy shows up in our community and our institutions. And if you can't name the problem and understand it, then you're not going to be able to make progress. And I think that's what the recent video that our board leaders and Dr. Horton put out yesterday is about. It's about educating our community about how to talk about this difficult stuff. How are we going to teach our children if we ourselves can't look at ourselves and think about how we are complicit in unequal systems and how we can be less complicit? So I think that is a community project and an ongoing project. And that should filter into everything we do on the board and in the district, in the curriculum that we craft, in the social emotional learning initiatives that we implement, in the way we address discipline, in the way we think about culture and climate broadly, and within the very intimate relationships between teachers and their students. So I think unity comes with truth telling and continued learning about how to build community. Thank you.
Thank you, Sula Kim. And Indona?
Yes. So the way that I listened to the speech earlier today, and it made me do a lot of reflecting. And what I could say is the way that I would deal with that in our community is basically the way that I always do. I'm not the type of person who just talks about what I'm going to do. I'm a person of action. In addition to my career in finance and business consulting, I also am the president of a nonprofit grassroots organization that works as a liaison between the community, the city of Evanston, and other organizations to help to provide resources for the marginalized within our community, providing meals, also legal support for our immigrant population, translation services. I am also the member of Alliance Française, which is the French Institute, in partnership with the Consulate of France, which also enables me to connect with other communities throughout Chicago and Evanston. I also previously was the president of the Bilingual Parent Advisory Committee of District 65, where I met Katya. And I am very active with assisting the Spanish-speaking community, as well as the other English language learners that we have here in Evanston. When I was president of BPAC, I believe it was 69 languages, but based on the most recent material at District 65, it says 85. So I'm very well versed in working in different communities from different backgrounds, whether it's when I was working on Wall Street or working in the community. I'm also a family focused kid. So I know how to connect with people from many different levels and different backgrounds. So I would just basically continue to do what I normally do, which is to reach out to people regardless of what language they speak and where they come from.
Okay, thank you very much. And the next question will come from our sponsor, STEM School Evanston, Henry Wilkins.
All right, thank you. So I guess this question can go to the incumbents. So the environment that we're in terms of the budget cuts that are looming and the deficits that the school district could be facing, it feels very similar to the situation back in 2003, at a time where there was plans for the school district to open a school in the 5th Ward in the Central Core. They had it all figured out. They had a location figured out. It was going to be a kindergarten through 3rd grade. You know, everything was figured out. And then the following year, the school board came along and scrapped those plans, and they didn't pursue it any longer. And then later went with the referendum, which was defeated outside the 5th Ward mainly. In short, what are your plans to ensure this time around in the environment that we're in that, you know, opening a school in the Central Core is not deprioritized and, you know, doesn't lose focus? And I guess, again, this question will go to the incumbents.
I'll be happy to jump in there and say that I think a school in the Central Core of Evanston needs to be a part of our long-term financial sustainability plan. It is a part of the money problem that we have, but it is also a huge part of this community's long-standing cultural problem, in the way that it says to our children and to our families that you deserve a school in your neighborhood. And I think there's a couple things that need to happen strategically for the board. One is we do need a referendum for approval to acquire land. That is different than a referendum to help pay for the school. That's different than a couple of things.
Okay, Joseph, we can't hear you. Yeah, we can't hear you. Okay, next incumbent, we'll come back to Joseph.
Yeah, I can add from there, unless you want to go, Sula, either way. And Joey, let us know when your sound's back on and I can hand off. You know, I think I want to talk about the cultural shift. So I moved here in 2003, so I definitely was not, I didn't have kids yet, so I was not aware of all of the pieces back then. But I think as someone who does equity, diversity, and inclusion work, we have changed pretty dramatically in the last 15 years. And I think in Evanston, having done a lot of work here, there's been a substantial change. You know, 7 years ago, I would say the term white privilege and people would cry. And so, you know, I do think we have a critical mass of people who understand equity in a way that is different than those decisions were made in 2004 or in 2012 with the referendum. And, you know, I think there's a larger conversation about the tension between doing what's best for my kids and helping raise global citizens and being in community. And so I do think the conversation is different, which is a big part of the first step, right? So if you look, for me, if you look at making this a reality, and I want to say, like, I don't think there's any way we can move forward without a school in the 5th Ward. We have to look at several pieces to get there. So one is the work to help people understand why it is necessary, what the historical harm is, you know, helping people understand how currently we're providing the diversity of our schools based on the backs of Black and brown children in a way that none of us should be comfortable with. And so if we as a community find value in a neighborhood school, that needs to be something that is available to the kids in the Central Core. I think you know, the next piece that needs to be queued up, which has happened, is we needed to hire a superintendent focused on equity. We needed to get a student assignment staff member that starts looking at program alignment so that we can make sure that every school has the ability to meet the needs of the students in its neighborhood, and it currently doesn't. And TWE and ACC and SPED are programs that you know, we should provide those services at every school. We should provide those options everywhere. And so, you know, we're going to need to look at program alignment is, I think, the next piece. Then we get into the financial and logistical pieces. Then we make the actual decision. Then we have the transition time and the building logistics and all of that. But I think we are on our way. I think, and Henry, I give great credit to you for this work. I think I said to you a while ago, I'm an optimist, I'm an idealist, but I'm also a realist, and you got to put in the work. And just like the PTA equity project was, it has been mentioned, in 2016, we didn't know when that would become a reality. We had no, we just knew it was the right thing to do. And I think a fifth ward school is the right thing to do. And I'm committed to using my influence on the board to make that happen and figure out that it doesn't get traded away in the discussions of what we need to do with the budget. The budget crisis makes it complicated, but it doesn't make it any less urgent. Thanks.
I will just add, and I concur with what my board colleagues have said. And since I'm new to the board and learning about the budget process, I still have a lot to learn about the nitty gritty and the priorities that we need to look at. But I think in any large strategic goal and in any kind of vision, you have that goal, you have that plan in front of you, but then you need specific steps to get there in year 1, in year 2, and year 3. And I think that's what we as a board can do, is guide the district and district leadership about how we get there, and the community about how we get there, right? Here's our goal for year 1 that we're trying to get to. We might hit obstacles that we're not yet aware of, but we still have to always be moving towards that strategic goal. And that's also the way that the community can hold us accountable, is we have to be transparent about what those goals are year to year and give you progress reports, right, about how we're doing. I think that's how all big strategic goals get achieved, is what are the tactics, what are the steps to get there.
And Joey?
I think I'm back.
Yes.
So to finish what I was saying, I said to Henry in a one-on-one conversation in the middle of my first term, when we talked about this, that I didn't see the STEM school being something that could come to fruition in my first term, but I thought that it might be a chance in a second term. And I do believe that. To Biz and Sula's points, I won't accept taking this off of the agenda as something that is of utmost importance in a community that decided to build JEH. Love the early childhood center, big building, lots of money. We could have built a fifth ward school too, in the same community that closed the school that was in the fifth ward. There really has to be a way to make this happen. It is something that we can do, we can realize, and within the next 4 years, we can have a plan that gives people in this community a chance to see what that will look like. And we cannot ignore the reality that it will probably also have to be paired with closing another school in the district. And I don't think anybody should escape the reality that the district can't add another school to the financial roles, but it is something that has to be a part of a broader strategic planning conversation that the upcoming board is going to have to take as a big part of their work and care.
Sorry, can I also jump in? I do have a suggestion, I think, for the board that I think is important. Is that okay, Malika?
Yes.
The fifth ward ethnic makeup is a result of redlining, where the reparations initiative was designed to address. And I think that, outside of District 65 parents, overall, we need to emphasize homeownership and basically neighborhood improvements in the ward. And that itself will raise property tax income, and that could also continue to be earmarked for a new school, the STEM school, and or educational interventions to raise academic achievement for fifth ward students. But additionally, one reason why I always talk about enrichments, and that's one thing that really just spoke to me, especially with the equity piece, because not everyone can afford the enrichments piece first, but then secondly, transportation's an issue. If you end up staying after school, how do you get home? What if you don't have a parent that can come get you? There usually isn't a bus at the elementary level that will take you home after you do after school. So there's that inequity there. I know that at Walker, we were very fortunate to have a principal that was able to get busing for one day after school, and that was a free option. I think that the board could also look at additional support for enrichments, but then also overall focusing on, now I'm losing my train of thought, I'm sorry, but additional support for the STEM school in the fifth ward.
Thank you very much. We're going to take a question from Terry Shepard.
Okay, first of all, I realize I'm not very good at this because I don't see anybody shaking their head in agreement when they hear something but me. So I'm trying to be still. But when I hear something I like, I go, yeah, I like that. So I heard words that I've heard for 30 years here. The word equity. Of course, equity to one group means something totally different to another group. In past years, what equity has meant is that I don't get what I need unless the Caucasian community has what they need. There's no leveling of the playing field. I can't get what I need unless they get what they need. Now, in my case, obviously I'm here as a proponent of the STEM school. I truly believe that a school in the 5th Ward is something that the city owes to the Black students of Evanston, the families of Evanston. We wouldn't have integrated schools if it weren't for those Black kids that get on the bus every day, rain, sleet, or snow. But always when it comes to us, we have to wait. Now, what can you do to assure me and other African Americans who may feel like me that we don't have to wait until you get everything you want for us to get what we need? Anybody?
Who would like to take that one first? Angela, why don't you take that?
Sure. No, I appreciate the candor, and I think it's a really, I mean, your historical view is very interesting. I mean, I think when you look at the school and you combine it with the budget as is, you know, as Joey said, the only way to get a new school is to close at least 1 or 2 other schools. So that's the decision point, right? Can you redistrict and close? And then I think the other thing is, you know, you really do need buy-in from the whole community. That's why the 2012 referendum or 2011 referendum didn't work. And so how do you get buy-in, particularly from the communities that will be losing what they view as diversity in those schools, right? That I think they've valued. And it is a little bit complicated. I think that one thing is you have to be really careful with the schools you close, right? If you decide to close a school that's either benefiting from that diversity or what the perceived diversity is, or you're closing a school that is primarily an all-white school where the parents will really rally against it, then you've kind of created more probably drama and resistance to what you're getting. And so I do wonder, I mean, I know that, you know, I think one big, you know, not so secret thing is that the STEM school might not be something that District 65 gets off the ground immediately. Maybe there's a partnership, maybe there's private funding. I mean, we saw what happened with the Y recently, where Mackenzie Scott provided the massive grant for residential development. So there is a ton of private money flooding into causes like this. So I think you have to be really realistic. And that's not to say that it can't happen, but when you look at the budget as a whole, it feels to me that it's probably something that's either going to take a dramatic change in the near, call it 12 months, or it's just going to get pushed to the end, right? Pushed to the next referendum, pushed to the next sort of balancing of budgets. That's my honest take.
Okay, well, I appreciate your honest take, but just listening to some of your comments in the beginning of the show where you're talking about white people are ready, it sounds to me like you're saying, well, no, they're really not, because they're going to have to give up something, which is what I led off in my question.
Right.
If I can go, I'd like to ask Katie Voorhees a question because she's from Orrington. And Orrington is a school that over the past 10, 15 years has been one of the schools mentioned that may need to be closed. Katie, if you're on the school board and your children are at Orrington, how can I be sure that you could represent all of the children in the district and just not those from Orrington?
Thank you for asking me. I think it's extremely important to be thinking about all children in the district. You know, I think all of us that are interested in joining the board, it's not about our own specific children. We're interested in raising everyone up. So I think that, as far as closing Orrington specifically, I think that there have to be some studies done, and you have to know, what's the birth rate in the area, like how many kids are, going to be coming into that area. What are you going to do with those kids, like logistically? I love the idea of making the Fifth Ward School a STEM magnet school. And I think that there would be a lot of buy-in from Orrington parents, if it's this amazing educational experience. And I think that already I actually have heard a lot of parents in my neighborhood be very supportive of such a school. I think, you would have to think about, where would the Orrington kids go? Would they then, they don't get a neighborhood school. I don't think anyone should have a neighborhood school taken away from them. I think everyone should, get their neighborhood school. And I mean, that's the whole point. Like, it was a disaster to take away the Fifth Ward School, and I wouldn't want history to repeat itself in a negative way. However, if it needed to happen, I think that we could have difficult conversations with Orrington parents specifically. And specifically, if they could have a chance to go to this STEM school, I think there would be a lot of buy-in from the community.
May I say something?
May I please say something?
Is that Terry?
No, that's Marquise and Indona.
Marquise, go ahead.
I would like to just make a comment on Angela said that that they would be losing diversity in their schools. If we opened a school in the Fifth Ward, it would be losing diversity in other schools. Well, the Fifth Ward is diverse in its own. And what the Fifth Ward has lost, because I am a resident of the Fifth Ward, not currently, but that's where I grew up for majority of my life. And what we've lost in our community, aside from the diversity, is the brotherhood that comes with having a community school, the sense of responsibility. There's so many things that we've had to give up in order to, my children had to get up an hour early to go to a school that was across town. By the time they got home, to get home on a bus and do homework, now they're all tired. They can't even focus on what they're supposed to do. So diversity, and someone losing diversity in another school, and the Fifth Ward children gaining all of the things that we've lost for many, many years. I think that's one thing that Evanston can afford to lose. With gaining the confidence and the brotherhood, and just when we had drum and bugle corps in the Fifth Ward, back when my mother and my father were in drum and bugle corps, and the reason that the crime rate was down in the community was because they came together. That gave them a sense of togetherness. So and then, Katie, to have a difficult conversation with the Orrington parents. We have a difficult conversation with our children every year that you can't go to school here. You have to go to school where people don't look like you. You have to go to school where people don't understand you. They deem you to be out of control. You need medication to stay calm. When all it is really is that you're just tired because you had to get up an hour early to go to school. So I think that to prioritize the needs of students, I have four children, and all of my children are not the same. But what I do know is the specific needs of my children, and I prioritize them based on the need of that child. So when all of our children they're all different. However, it is very important that all of our children feel included. And I know for a fact that those children do not feel included when they have to go to these schools all around their community, and they don't even have a sense of responsibility, because they can't leave their door and walk across the street to their school. They have to learn that. And once we don't learn that, and we don't learn that in a timely manner, and we learn that from people that don't look like us, then they think that we're bad, and they up and put us in jail. because we haven't learned it to the best of our ability, because we haven't been taught by people that look like us. So I think that to prioritize the needs of every child and to prioritize the needs of children is the good thing of a good parent. And that would be the responsible thing coming from a district that has to make these difficult decisions.
May I speak?
Go ahead, Nadona, sorry.
Okay. So I was just going to, I want to speak about the Fifth Ward School in two different aspects. So one, I do agree that it would be healthier to have a school in the Fifth Ward because of the community aspect that she mentioned. I too was in Drum and Bugle with Bo Price, but I also think it's because the adults were a lot more strict back then. Things have changed, but that is needed. I do believe also that the desegregation of schools unfortunately did destroy many of the Black communities throughout the United States, including the school here, the community here in Evanston. You know, diversity is good, but not at the detriment of one community to help another. Secondly, in regards to, you know, the necessity, I do believe that it's something that's necessary. I also do believe a little bit differently from some of my cohorts, because I do have a background in finance. I am aware that just like the city was able to create bonds to create Robert Crown, the same thing can be done for Fifth Ward School. The credit rating for the city of Evanston is quite high. Municipal bonds can be issued. Money can be created and paid out over a period of time, just like they did for Robert Crown. So if the city could invest, what is it, close to $70 million for Robert Crown, they can do something similar. Well, it doesn't have to be that expensive, but bonds could be issued to create a Fifth Ward school, but there could also be partnerships with private organizations. So I don't believe that there is no money. There might not be any money in hand, but it can be created. Anyone who knows finance knows that it could be created, but it's just a matter of whether or not they want to do it. And I do believe that it's a necessity. I don't want it to be, you know, create a Fifth Ward school and then close Orrington. In my opinion, I don't think that's fair. I believe that both schools should be able to exist, because since we are a city that is often speaking about equity, inclusion, and diversity, we can't just talk about it. We can't, you know, in order to try and even the playing field, decide that we're going to take everything from this one group just to give to the other group. We want to make sure that all of the children are, you know, living in a situation where it's equal. The Black kids, brown kids, yellow kids, white kids. We want them all to be able to have an environment in which they can learn comfortably and welcoming. And I think that if we did have a conversation about closing schools, and that's going to cause even further division within our city. We're currently having tons of conversations where one side is calling everyone on the other side white supremacists. We have other people on another side saying that they don't care about us, you know, and our children and our needs. We have to get away from that. We have to get away from that. I often say that the Evanston that I grew up in is very different from the one that I moved back into in 2018. And at this point, it's so toxic, the attacks, not only on the board members, but also anyone in the community that has a different opinion are literally being attacked and threatened physical harm. These conversations have to be had, but they cannot be had where we're making, you know, accusatory, you know, comments towards one person or another. We have to all understand that we're all in this for the betterment of our community and for the well-being of our children. And
thank you, Malika.
Thank you, Indona. Thank you. That's time. We're down to 1 minute, and that was a very important topic. I know there's probably a few of you who want to comment on that. Did anyone else want to comment before we close up?
Hi,
you all
I
want
just
to?
did. Sorry. I
Okay.
wanted to say one of the biggest things, Terry, your question really resonated with me was just we need to keep Black families in Evanston. You know, we need to not only keep our Black families in Evanston, but we need to bring them back or bring them back more in. I think one of the things that what the board can do and has done was they started the Black Lives Matter curriculum about 3 years ago. And last year, you know, they continued it. And I think that we need to learn this more. I think it needs to be part of our history because the history I learned growing up isn't real. It's just completely biased. And you know, I think we need to listen to our Black students regularly, and not just in times of crisis. It shouldn't get to that point. And we do need more of that teacher-student interaction. I also think we need more social workers. We need to be able to support our Black students in all capacities. And Marquise, I hear you about your children having to be bused there and back, and that time spent is something that they could have been doing either in, you know, their neighborhood school or enrichment, further educating them in an area of their interest, whether it's arts or science or STEM, right? So I think there's definitely things that we can do, and we need to keep our Black families and our Black kids here in Evanston.
Okay, thank you very much. That is time.
Sorry, can I say one more thing to Marquise? You know, when I talked about difficult conversations, I also, you know, when you were talking, I felt so much anger, and I feel I must represent something really awful to you, and I would want to have a conversation. That's an example of a conversation that I think needs to be had between like someone like myself and you, and I want to understand better, and I would want to further this conversation if you would ever want to get together and talk more.
It was definitely not anger, it was passion from coming from that place and knowing where that is. That resonates in my heart. Everyone has the right to their opinion, and we can all disagree, or you know, we can all be together and be on the same page. Otherwise, I have no animosity at all with the way that you feel. I just needed you to understand, coming from firsthand experience, this is exactly why I feel like this is the voice that is needed on the district, because this is a clear lens of where this is coming from. And like I said, we can have a conversation. Absolutely. You can have my email. We can talk. I wish we could go out to Starbucks and have coffee, but it's not, it's just passion, not anger.
I think
And it is a place of privilege for white people to say, we can take our time with this decision. I think I heard that in your question, Terry. You know,
right. Thank you.
We're done waiting, and as the white man on the board, I need to make sure that people who are choosing who to vote for know that I understand that privilege, and we need to get it done.
Thank you so much for addressing that, Julie. I appreciate it. And one thing I'd like to say, it's just a very short plug. Obviously, I'm here to support the STEM school in Evanston, but since the killing of George Floyd all over the country in Evanston, we're talking about we need to know one another. Everybody, I'm encouraging to get the ACC in your school, and you'll learn about each other from a historical perspective prior to slavery. That's what's needed in our K-8 District 65 schools. And if you don't know what it is, I would encourage you, once the schools are open, to go down and take a look at the ACC program at Oakton Elementary School. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Terry. And I thank everyone for sticking around. We have gone over, but it's about our children. It's about our youth. So, you know, I'm fine with us going over, but we are going to wrap up. And to Terry's point, yes, I think the ACC program in every school would definitely help. And those conversations won't be so difficult because there will be more of an understanding of who Black people are in the community.
Thank you.
Yes. And Terry and Erica and Henry and many others on here have helped to get legislation that's actually sitting on Governor J.B. Pritzker's desk right now for signing to mandate that all schools in the state of Illinois teach the true history of Black people prior to
That's right.
slavery.
That's right. That's right. That's right. Mhm.
Yes. So thank you. This has been some great. We didn't even get to everything that we wanted to cover, but this was some good stuff. And I think we learned a lot about each of you just from you all asking each other questions also. And for those of you that didn't get their questions answered, please reach out to these candidates, reach out to them and have a conversation, send your questions to them. And before we close, I want each person to give their contact information for the public out there, because we have people watching on Facebook Live, and then we have people here, and I'm sure they have more questions for you. They want you to elaborate on some of your responses. So if each of you can take a moment to let everyone know where they can contact you. Let's start with Donna.
Thank you, Malika.
Okay.
You can contact me. My website is DonnaSue, DONNASU, no E.com, or you can email me at donnasue@gmail.com. Once again, no E at the end of Sue.
Thank you, Donna. Angela?
Sure. My email is A Blazing, first initial, last name BLAISING at yahoo.com.
Okay. Katie?
My email is kmagrino@gmail.com.
Marquise?
That would be friends of MW D65 at Gmail. And as soon as we finish all the touches on my website, I will be sure to at all of you so that we can connect.
And Donna?
My email address is contact, which is CONTACT at Indona, the number 4, D65.com. My name spelled INDONA, the number 4, D65.com. My phone number is 646-884-1594. My web address is Indona, number 4, D65.com. And my Facebook is Indona Muboyai for District 65 School Board. But you can, on Facebook, you can put the hashtag Indona, the number 4, D65.
Okay. Joseph?
I have put my, changed my name to my email address, so feel free to use it. Send any follow-up questions. Check out any board history over the past 4 years, or a quick Google search and you'll find a lot of other positions and statements and consistency over the years in education, but feel free to reach out. I look forward to connecting.
Okay. Sula Kim?
Thanks. My website is soolakim4d65.com. That's SOOLAKIMFORD65.com. You can also reach me at soolakim4d65 at gmail.com. And I have a Facebook page, Sula Kim for Evanston Skokie District 65 School Board.
Thank you. And Biz?
Great. I have a web address, biz4FORD65.com, and that you can check out my website, and I have a Facebook page. You can send me messages to any of those places. I'm happy to answer any questions you have.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you so much to our candidates. Some good stuff here. I learned a great deal more about some of you, for sure. And let's give a thank you to our sponsors today. Erica Walker, she's diversity consultant of the Walker Thomas Group. Erica?
Yeah, thank you for having me. My contact information is in the comments, and you can certainly Google the Walker Thomas Group.
Thank you so much, Erica. And to Henry, founder of STEM School Evanston.
Sure. So we have a website address. It's stemschoolevanston.net. We also, you can feel free to email us at schoolevanston@gmail.com. We have a Facebook page, Instagram, Twitter. I don't know those handles. So if you email, I'll track it down and you can follow us with those social media outlets as well.
Okay, and when I post this video, I will be sure to put everyone's contact information in the description so everyone can reach out to the candidates. Thank you so much. Thank you to our sponsors. And I think we gave you all just enough for you to get engaged and to reach out to these candidates. This has been awesome. So thank you all so much. Thank you for supporting Evanston Live TV. Thank you. I think Dr. Gordon is watching, Anya Tanya Booty is watching. Thank you so much. And to both of them for supporting the legislation to push Black History expansion. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, they've been awesome. Thank you all so much.
Be healthy and well, everyone.
Wait, what about your pearls, Malika? No pearls?
No pearls?
Got mine, Nadona.
Okay, okay.
Everyone have a good night. God bless.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
This has been Evanston Live TV. That was the District 65 Candidate Forum. Wow, that was some good stuff. I think it was just enough for you all to get engaged and catch them at their next forum, their next interview. We're going to have more candidates here on Evanston Live TV, so you all stay tuned here. Tomorrow we have the 5th Ward Candidate Forum. So we'll have Bobby Burns and Carolyn Murray, and that's going to be a great discussion, what's going on in the 5th Ward and what their vision is for the entire city of Evanston. And then the next forum will be the mayoral debate. That's going to be good. That's February 2nd. That's going to be a good one. And that one is sponsored by Kappa Alpha Psi fraternity. Yes. So it's going to be a good one. So thank you all. Thank you to all of our viewers. Thank you. Thank you. Stay tuned here, Evanston Live TV, for more on the Evanston elections.